Hi, I did a critical ethnography on the experiences of lesbian, bisexual, queer Latinas occupying the familial space. And the reason that I did this was really because I'm just somebody who is in that conflicting space where it's very uncomfortable, but still embodies being a part of your family. So I just want to first of all, on a personal level, I just want to write about it, right? Just heal through doing this kind of research. But also, I know that's not an individual struggle. It's also like a lot of Latinx, Latinas, queer Latinas deal with a lot of these inner conflicts that I deal with. And another reason is just the heteronormativity within the Latinx Familia. So, and that exists on the national level. And so I was looking in my paper basically at the mass shootings uh, that in Orlando and El Paso and the different responses. So obviously with the Orlando shooting in 2016, there was more of a silence. More of the victims were Latinx, part of the Latinx community, and there was a silence from their families to acknowledge the survivors, right? So the partners, and then there was also just a lot of barriers. If folks weren't married, then they couldn't reap the benefits of being, in a relationship with the survivor. And so there's just all this heteronormative ideologies that show up and create these barriers. But equally, the Latinx community in general, La Familia, didn't show up for LGBTQ peoples, right, in their community. So obviously on that level, it's really important. And then just with the COVID-19, it's already an added stressor. And so um, one of the biggest communities who is dealing with the inequalities of health is the LGBTQ community, on top of all these other racial barriers, sexual barriers of sexuality, and then intertwined with gender, right? There's a lot to navigate. And And so my positionality, I'm a non-binary Chicanx lesbian. I grew up in a rural community. So for me, coming out was really through literature, right? I read a lot about Latina lesbian experiences. I had beautiful anthologies that were crafted that I just felt like spoke to me, like they just could breathe, life into me. So, and language, right? A language that I didn't have a new awareness. And then that allowed me to basically decolonize uh, my ideas of homophobia, which were really rooted in how I was raised, right? Um, in a really like hyper masculine rural rancho space. And so the question that I pose, because we are going to come and enter this question differently, especially my interviewers. And so, what are the experiences of queer, lesbian, bisexual Latinas navigating and negotiating their identities within family? Like, what does that look like? And so, for the lit review, I did look at different Chicano feminist scholarships, right? And so this is kind of what I looked at. I looked at epistemologies, theories, methodologies, like how do Chicana feminists and queer Chicanas actually approach research, um, especially when their communities have a great deal of silence on things like sexuality. How do you undo that? How do you get people to even share their stories? And so I also look at what are the belief systems within familia. So the whole idea of familismo, the idea of being embedded to family no matter what, and so like how that kind of contradicts um, that all Latino families are homophobic, right? So that contradiction, obviously, there's conflicts, and because of embeddedness, the, there a lot of Latina lesbians or queer Latinas experience this in betweenness of like a lukewarm acceptance. And so that's kind of what I want to listen for. I want to unpack um, that messiness of family.